because we published, beloved. Hello, Nicole Carr. How are you?
Doing great. Top of the morning. Doing well. How are you?
As we were saying off camera, the world is rolling. The world is on
Mhm.
fire.
Oh,
However, the price of exclusion is coming. I'm excited for you. The price of exclusion, the pursuit of healthcare in a segregated nation, which I feel like this has been the conversation my entire adult life. As a disabled person, as a person who has lived through the era of pre-existing conditions.
mm, mhm.
I remember when that term came around in circa 2008, and we were like, ain't all conditions pre-existing? Anyway, so we published, beloved. You are on your way. Your book is on its way into the world. This podcast will air after your book has come out, but specifically want to talk to you about this journey.
Yes.
Please tell us. I would love to hear from you, how we got here. What's the background? Cook us up.
Yes. So I always tell folks I'm a veteran journalist, and I was covering the pandemic in all the ways from Georgia in
Mhm.
in 2020. And I was 4 months postpartum
Mm.
when we locked down. So with number three, our son, he was, I'm breastfeeding, and the girls are in kindergarten and third grade. They're on
Mm.
their computers, homeschooling, and all the things are happening. My husband and I were both working in television in different ways, so we had like a home studio, and it was just a lot going on in the house, as was the case with everyone.
Uh-huh.
But one night I got off the 11 o'clock show. And I just carried everything I was feeling about where we were headed, the fact that this wasn't going anywhere, that we were actually entering a new norm, even when people were denying it. And I came into this room after the 11 o'clock show, and I just sat here and I said, how did they get through this 100 years ago? And so I'd remembered that I have a great grandfather who's a physician who we didn't know a whole lot about him, or quite honestly, some family drama issues. We carried the family name but did not know much about the family. And some of that is covered in the book. And I said, wasn't he practicing or in school at this time? And so I went and looked him up. I didn't even have the full name. I knew part of his name. And Howard University happened to have had a Mellon grant, and it digitized the morgue yearbook from 1925
Wow.
that had him in it. It was his med school class. So
Wow.
during the Spanish flu pandemic, he was in the British West Indies Regiment and fighting in World War I. And we know
Yeah.
that who takes off from the military camps in the U.S., and they're dealing with that. He's from Jamaica. Jamaica was hardest hit in the Caribbean at the time. You can go back and look at some of their news coverage about, the purple flu that came in from the banana boats. So he
Mhm.
dealt with it in war. And then we talk about Spanish flu in 1918, but it didn't go away. It's just like COVID. It was lingering. People didn't talk about it a lot. It's not well documented. But I found where he landed in America for pre-medical studies during Red Summer, and the Spanish flu was still
Hmm.
going. And so I started seeing how Black physicians were handling pandemic in hospitals back
Mm.
then, and what the training was like. And I just started to use him as a narrative through line to take us through like a century of medical histories centering lesser known Black physicians.
Mm.
So I think in that kind of narrative, you really understand the ways in which we were fighting for universal health care, integrated hospitals, not to be in proximity to white people, but to have resources. Because I think that's what we
Right.
get wrong about the integration
Right.
conversation all the time. Nobody's trying to be accepted by you.
No.
And so this is showing all the ways that they were getting around this segregated environment. I mean, even from, there's a lot of Howard University in here. We have to remember with a lot of our institutions that, we weren't running a lot of them, operating them
Yeah.
from the beginning. The leadership was not
Yeah.
Black yet. And so
Yeah.
even covering the first Black faculty member and what he had gone through, this man born free in Virginia who had to go to Canada when UPenn wouldn't accept him into medical school. He starts training doctors in Canada
Mm.
and then petitions Lincoln to join the Union Army to run contraband camp, which becomes Freedmen's Hospital.
Wow.
And when he arrives to America, they're like, oh, you're Black. We didn't know that he has to petition Lincoln over and over, and he runs the camp. And not to give too much away, but the white officers who were the physicians running the camp for contraband for us, they walk off. They write the government and say, we didn't sign up to be told what to do by a Negro. And so when you start looking at your ancestors in these situations, and you start looking at the ways that they excelled and made things work and the resilience, you understand a lot of the fight today.
Mm.
And so this was about humanizing people we wouldn't learn about. I say there's not a whole lot of the MLKs of medicine, and that's not to dismiss anyone, but you're not going to find a whole lot of Charles Drew or Lewis T. Wright or the people that we learn about. My great-grandfather goes to school. The only woman in the medical class in 1925 at Howard had the patent on the period calendar. We don't
Wow.
learn about that. So these were people I wanted to bring to life in this way. And I said, I'll just use the person I know who's connected to me. Because I think often we say, am I the person to write this story? And so it was really important to me. One of the first reviews that I got, and I love her to death, Dr. Uche Blackstock. It was important to me for a Black physician to read it.
Yeah.
And appreciate it. And she gave me a great review. I'm happy about that. But I wanted to make sure that it was reflecting something useful
Yeah.
to us. Yeah.
We love Uche over here. We're big Uche fans. Uche is a season 1 interviewee, and our books came out on the same day. So we're book cousins.
Yes.
Yes. Uche is brilliant. And I appreciate what you're sharing here because you're revealing how so many of our stories are submerged in these very complicated family histories and social norms and all of this baggage that really is not ours to carry. We should not have to excavate as much as we have to tell these stories. So I mean,
yeah.
I as an academic respect you, right? Because journalism is no joke. And having to investigate your own lineage and your own genealogy is a very particular experience. So I'm wondering, first of all, give us the details of the book, date of publication. When did you get a contract for this? How did you pitch this story?
So it comes out on June 16th. And maybe we can talk about that date a little later on. That's a special date because I had been covering the anti-DEI and CRT movement through the lens of parental rights movements as a reporter when I was working on this. And June 16th, 2022 was the day that my story dropped. It was headline, white parents rallied to chase a Black educator out of town, then followed her to the next. And it was an investigation about all the powers that be that we now are very familiar with under Heritage Foundation. But back in 21, 22, people were not. It was revealing the political and racial components of this thing at your school board that you think is just in your backyard. And so these arguments, so that dropped on June 16th. And then I kept saying, why am I writing a book that I'm not reporting on? Because this is hard to work on a different project and be it's one thing to write a book about the thing you're currently reporting on. It's another to handle both of these at the same time. And then a few years into this, I said, I am writing about the same thing. This language about merit and, this thing about bringing our histories to the forefront and letting that ground us in confronting the thing. This is the same project. I just wasn't looking at it that way. So, I did not expect to write the book.
Mm.
I have an agent from my television days.
Hmm.
So I was in local TV until 2021 when I transitioned to ProPublica. Her name is Tracy Wilkes Smith. She's amazing. Black woman. And Tracy, we used to just be on the phone during lockdown. And I said, you're not going to believe what I found. And I'm telling her about this Howard discovery. And then I start finding all these other interesting things. I said, this makes so much sense in this time. And one day Tracy was like, you should write a book.
Come on.
And I was like, well, I do want to, but like, is this the time? And so about a week later, she called and she said, do you have a proposal ready? And no.
Of course not.
But I said yes. And I Googled book proposals. I didn't know how to write one then. So I said, yeah, I've got one. And I put one together. And Tracy's a great agent because she's not a one-hit wonder. Everybody knew her from doing these television contracts, but she also worked with other journalists who were in print and she had worked in the book world. So she had these contacts, and she put me in touch with a lit agent, Peter McGuigan in New York. And he got really excited about the story at the time. And he said, well, he helped me shape up the proposal, and it ended up, I don't know, how long was your proposal? Did you?
Mine went on forever, child.
Yeah, it's like a 30.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this one turned into like a 30-page deal. And I still don't think it was as comprehensive as if I had planned to write a book. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm interested in that as well because, this is now the second season, so I've done this a few times, and I hear so often from other Black authors that
Yes.
it was someone else who said, you should write a book.
Yeah.
It was an agent, it was an editor, it was a friend, and so I'm intrigued by that because, you and I were writing at the same time,
Yes.
writing during COVID-19, the early days and years of quarantine.
Yes.
And amongst this kind of uncertainty,
Right.
writing a lot of it in isolation because you
Yes.
can't actually go outside.
No.
And so I'm intrigued to know,
Mhm.
as you're trying to do this research, because a lot of research requires us to go into archives. We gotta go places. How did you do the investigatory aspect of this work during COVID-19's quarantine days?
So I started with the family first.
Okay.
My grandmother, who's the physician's first daughter-in-law, is still alive and talking about things she had never spoken about. She was interested when I was finding things. None of them knew he fought in the British West Indies Regiment. Unless you died, there's not a really great record on you. But um, impeccable digital records in the libraries in London and at Kew. And I just got everything I could. Ancestry. I started connecting the dots because I've got to tell you whereabouts, what plantation they likely came from. And that's a whole different story, and connecting the dots in those records. So I started putting together what was available to me through the living and through online records.
Mm.
Then I started traveling into the archives. You're going to get a lot of Black firsts in the book, including, so the first 4-year medical school in the entire U.S. is at a Black college, Shaw University. So the first chapter is the medical education of the Negro sets the standard. When I did arrive to Shaw, they only had 3 boxes of archives tied to the medical school. And I said, where did everything go? They were wonderful too. They said, well, UNC has some, Duke has some, and I was having trouble getting access to certain collections.
Wow.
And so I put, even with teaching at Morehouse, and sometimes, you can get in through another institution, and it's very difficult. So I put on my reporter hat and I said, well, who would have been alive, who would have been interested in the medical?
Yeah.
And that's when I found somebody right before we locked down delivered a box that was in a closet at the Baptist Home Mission that had long story short, there was some founding documents for the medical school in that was mislabeled, and it was right here in my backyard in Atlanta.
Gosh.
So I was able to go in and get that. As soon as we could leave, we went back to Jamaica and started rerouting through the hospital. And I was with my dad, and we're on this kind of discovery. Then I'm at the Schomburg whenever I can. And then I would just, as soon as outside opened up, I went into the archives. It was in Scotland. A lot of a complete transcript from his Howard Medical School days was in Scotland, where he ends up specializing after they can't integrate hospitals in Harlem. He leaves and goes to Scotland. This is important for us because we got to look at this in an internationalist sense. America's first Black doctor trained in Scotland. So James McCoon Smith goes to Scotland, and then that's where my great-grandfather ends up going at the top of the 20th century. I think he got sick of America. I can't prove this, but he was not among those integrating the hospital system. And a lot of Caribbean folks in Harlem, Caribbean nurses, were starting the Black hospitals. And so I went and just took a walk through I just started following them. So in Scotland, they digitized everything and sent it to me.
Wow. I love this.
So some of this, like, just as soon as outside opens, I just start going places, and now I didn't have money to go to Scotland. If I could have, I ran through my part of the advance with traveling and the material. Researching is expensive.
Yes, it is.
In time and money. So just whenever I could get somewhere, reach out and somebody would help me. It just happened. And I don't think you ever feel like you're done with the book, because you start making these discoveries. And you're like, oh, I could do this. I could go look deep. Is this done? Is this... I hope that, and I think this is the only thing we can hope for in our works, that we add to the collection of understanding.
That's right. I everything you're saying is spot on. I think that there's often this expectation or this idea that when folks get the final product, when they see our final book, we just made it all up. We just sat in our room typing away, and I'm like, folks have no idea the amount of research and legwork that you have to do. The pre-writing process is a lot. I tell people all the time, there's pre-writing, there's writing, and there's post-writing. And that pre-writing and post-writing, to me, those are the hardest parts. Those are the ones where you spend the most time ruminating and worrying. And do I know how to write a book? I've never written a book,
Oh, yeah. That's I was approaching this, I think as journalists, you always say, especially if you've written long form, you're like, oh, I can do this. The structure, one, you have to be a reader. No matter what you're writing, you have to be a reader.
That's right.
But also, you get to a point, you're sitting here looking like, what am I doing? Does this make sense to anyone else? I had to hire an editor, a great editor. Her name is Victoria Bruce. She came in and helped me with structure, like halfway through this. And I'm gonna be honest. So we want to be honest with the writers here. There was a point where I thought I would lose the deal.
Mm.
I had not met. This was slated for 2024.
Hmm.
I was nowhere close to being done.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd asked for an extension like right at the time when I quit my newsroom job. So I was
Mm.
here not sure about my employment future.
Mm-hmm.
At the time I was an adjunct. I wasn't in my visiting position at Morehouse. And I'm waiting for the publisher to say, we'll hang with you.
Mm.
Luckily they hung with me.
Mm.
But I
Mm-hmm.
missed several deadlines. And I think we need to talk about how you go into this, because it's one thing for fiction. Of course, we're focusing on nonfiction.
Mm-hmm.
But we really have to um be realistic about the journey ahead and what you're asking for and what you have the bandwidth to do. But your first time around, you just don't know.
That's
You
right.
just don't know. Because coming out of the newsroom, I thought editors at the publishing house worked like editors in the newsroom, and we would kind of do this back and forth all day. And that's not what it is. Yeah. It's like they were happy to review pages and stuff, but to bring structure and things to light, you've got to do that.
On your own.
Yeah, on your
Right.
own.
That's
So
right.
Vicky from the outside helped me understand what might make sense. And then even after we worked together, the structure changed. Like I end up changing it in the before first pass edit.
Hmm.
So it's a lot. It's a lot of, and then you walk away from your work. And when did you read your book all the way through?
I don't think I actually did that until the hardcover actually came out into the world, because you're so deep into it. You're reading a chapter here, a chapter there,
Yeah,
here, this, that. You go through the edits. And frankly, by the time it was about to come out, I was like, I don't want
done
to see this
with
book
it.
no more.
I don't want to see it.
I don't want to see this book. I don't want to look at it. I don't, I'm not. So it took me a while to be able to read it cover to cover. But it was just pieces. It was a lot of, and some pieces I read way more times because they required so much more editing, you know? And I
Yes.
think I'm intrigued about your process as well, because I want to understand how you got from the idea to talking to your agent, to talking to this literary agent in New York, to a deal. So did you all go to auction? How
No,
did that all look?
it did not go to auction, but the process went really quickly.
Mm,
And Tracy told me that it would. Once we went to market, I had an interview initially with an editor. I was like, "Oh, that went fantastic. I just
mhm,
know that she's going to acquire this." It's another Black woman. And
mhm,
and I want to say at the time, we talk a lot about Black women in employment now and what we've lost over the past year. But I always tell folks this was sort of the tail end of the George Floyd book deals. I'm gonna be
yeah,
completely honest. When I look
yeah.
back on it, it wasn't thinking about that at the time, but, like, the excitement over our stories and things, it began to wane about a year later. So
Mhm,
this is the top of 22. I'm, like, at the tail
mhm,
end of this interest. And she wanted it, and I was sure she was gonna acquire it, and then there was a rejection. And I said, "Oh, okay." Um, and then we were waiting on another editor, and I was sure he would want this, but
mm.
he was sick and we could never get on a call.
Wow.
And then I got on the 3rd call and, this editor had a lot of acquisitions for celebrity memoir, but
Mm,
once a year would acquire nonfiction and really like journalists and Southern stories. And she took an interest in this. I mean, it was like it was done in 4 weeks.
wow.
It was done in 4 weeks. And then it was like, okay, now, we had a meeting about kind of what, because the original title was curable, and we were thinking of putting a question mark.
Mm,
Like, is this curable?
mhm,
But then it was like, what is this thing? How is this gonna pan out? I wasn't sure what place my ancestor was going to, how he was going to show up in this. We go between past and present throughout the book, but I'm not sure I knew that yet because I was still researching. Every day I'm like in the research, and then I said, this deserves a chapter. That's basically how,
Yeah.
like, this concept deserves a chapter, but then how can I butt that up to present day and then
Mm.
get my great-grandfather in there? So when he's going through Red Summer, we're going to flip back to be on the
Mm.
ground covering the protests.
Mm.
So I'm trying to connect with these people, bring us past to present, and
Wow.
it works out. And I probably could have written 300 more pages.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I'm a nerd, so I'm soaking this all up, right? I think, we haven't talked about it yet, but the fact that you were writing this so close postpartum, right? And so one thing I really wanted to emphasize is as I've gotten into writing, I noticed a lot of people don't have children. A lot of writers don't have children. And that's fine, but I think it's a very different experience, especially during COVID when we all had to become, workers at our jobs and also now educators and
Right.
childcare workers in our own homes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
24 hours of the day. Listen, I love my 3 children
Yeah.
and also, okay, okay, I was sick. I said, "Oh my gosh, y'all got to go out, run in the grass, go touch some grass and get out my house."
Right.
Like it's different when you're trying to write these stories and also working through the structural limitations and challenges. So how did you manage to do that with a small baby
Mhm.
and 2 other small children? It sounds
Mhm.
like all of them were under 10.
Yeah. 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 They were. I don't think I've sat with that yet. I think what we're doing now, we're not even afforded the opportunity to sit with what we just went through because right now we're in like World War III. And it's been a constant, nothing has been right since this man appeared.
Come on.
Nothing. It's been 10 years of chaos. The other thing I have to throw in there is I kinda sat for some months and didn't write anything. I continued some research, but I wasn't really writing. And so ProPublica was expanding to the South, and I had done some work with AJC on the unit. I'd always written for the paper, and I passed the writing test or whatever. I think I was the first television reporter they hired,
Mm.
and I end up investigating, uh, really what I mean, a lot of white nationalists were involved in this parental rights movement. We could see you can just look at the Department of Ed and the cross section between January Sixers and folks who were involved in your parental rights movements, and I was able to then get steeped in that, and I was writing this at the same time. So this was the escape.
Mm.
This was the escape because what I was doing was thematically dealing with the same stuff they were dealing with,
Yeah.
you know. I'm like, "Oh, you got here during Red Summer?
Mm.
You There was all this stuff about merit and educate and who was capable of what or what we shouldn't be talking about, and we're past this thing. You're the new Negro now." I mean, in their commencement speeches, they're being told, the new Negro will carry the race through this, and that, and you now have the opportunity to do this. His pre-med commencement speech. The week of commencement, one of the first casualties in Tulsa is a Black physician. The
Goodness.
being a new Negro did not
Doesn't protect you,
did not shield you
right?
from the violence that racism and bigotry, that we know all too well in America. And now that I'm thinking about the timing of the book, here we are as America shows her whole ass
Whole ass, okay?
on her 250th birthday.
Come on.
Yet, somehow, we still believe in this or demand that we be rooted in this place if we so choose. These debates about where do we go for peace? Where do you go for opportunity? You know, why is he leaving Harlem for Scotland?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why is Zora at the gala saying, hey, the plight of the Negro worldwide is the same. We better get together and get on this. And
Mm-hmm.
you in this colonial nation, in this colonized nation, I mean, this is still colonial Jamaica.
Absolutely.
And she's like, hey, I got news for you all.
Mm-hmm.
We're one and the same, and perhaps you all are worse off in a way politically and an understanding than we are. You know, he's here while Claude McKay is penning, you know, his famous words around the war, and if, you know, what happens when we die, like what is our being in this place? What does our actions in this time mean to the Negro 100 years from now?
Mm.
Or and what are we dying for?
Hmm.
And so I just think if we study, and this goes for any of us, whoever we are, and what if we call on them to instruct us, or if we start looking for them to humanize them, rather
Mm.
than to say they once were and maybe I look like them, or
Mm.
you start really seeing what they were dealing with.
Yeah.
I think we would be scared if we could see beyond the veil. Like, I just think they're here.
Yeah.
They're here. Like, I
Yeah.
know they are, because I couldn't find any dialogue for him at one point, and I walked past his photo in the dining room. I said, I need you to talk to me. And that's the
Mm.
night I found him with Zora
Mm.
in the archive. I said, okay, I hear you. We can't approach any of this. We can't be flippant and say none of this is new. Well, of course, we know that. But what ways is this exactly the same, and what allowed us to move beyond this time? And that's why you got to read about these people.
Yikes. I learned a term at AWP this year. I was at a panel of poets, and they were sharing, their work, and they were talking about ancestry and what it means to bring your ancestors into your work. And they referred to their work as lineage literature. And ever since that conversation, I've been sitting with the fact that so many of us are writing lineage literature. Our work is rooted in our ancestry, but also in speaking to and through our ancestors in the writing itself.
That's it.
So I'm wondering, if you're doing that, how do you bring this out into the world? Because what we do know is that people don't really want to hear from Black folk, and they especially don't want to hear from us when we know our history.
Yeah.
So how are you fashioning a book tour? How are you thinking about what rooms to be in? Have you faced any challenges in that respect?
Yeah. So I started, and just to pull the curtain back for Arthur, and I think we could both speak to this in terms of, like, book tours aren't necessarily financed by publishers, and unless you you've got these huge New York Times bestselling authors and highly anticipated titles, and that stuff is kind of thought about, a year in advance of the book coming
Right.
out. Like,
Right.
but typical, even good marketing, like, you have a solid team and stuff, you're going to incur a lot of the costs. You want to do ticketed events. You want to get to a place where everybody will have a book in hand, and all these things. And you want to support obviously Black-owned bookstores. Um, I'm launching with Village Books here in Atlanta, which is a new bookstore, and this is what I love about it. No One is Self-Made is this leadership book by
This book,
Kate
yeah.
Allman. She was signed to Day Street right after I was, and her book
Mm,
came out first. She has the Village Market, ATL here, and now Village Books in downtown Atlanta.
amazing.
So I am partnering with an imprint partner
Got
who
it.
has a bookstore, and I wouldn't have it any other way. It just so
Yeah.
happened she opened it this year. I'm being
Amazing.
very intentional about, Black woman bookstore in Atlanta.
Yeah.
We're doing that. And I built relationships. I heard you talking about this the other night.
Yeah.
I'd build relationships with people as I was researching. So if I'd be in town somewhere, I'd go into, was so happy to visit Reparations Club while I was in
Yes.
LA on a work trip. And now we're having an event at Rep Club.
Yes.
I've got the National Black Book Conference,
Mm.
which is run by Black journalist Curtis Bunn, and he's been doing this for 20 years. And I'd had these people and start, reaching out, and I primarily have independent, primarily Black-owned bookstores on the tour, or libraries. Like there's
Mm.
DC Public Library, and it'll be a Black bookseller, right?
Mhm.
So, but that I do have one what I call mainstream stop,
Huh?
and it is a Barnes and Noble. And I I had some help arranging that stop, and I'm excited to go. I'm excited to see everyone, but I know I've got to come back through.
Yeah.
I've got to get to if they'll have me Cafe Con Libros, and what
Yes.
I'm not thinking of the first 2 weeks as the end all be all.
Yeah.
It's the start, and what we've started with is centering as many independent and mostly Black-owned bookstores.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what's funny? When they book you, they'll say, "We report to New York Times." I've heard that
Mm.
a couple of the fact that you even have to say that, like, one,
Mhm.
Imma come whether you report or not,
Mhm. Mhm.
but it's also like, "Hey, we gotta understand the business of the bookseller."
That's right.
Ooh.
That's right.
And sometimes people get skipped over because, like, how is this gonna help my presale numbers? Or are they gonna know people bought from you? Why shouldn't everything report to the bestseller list?
Come on.
If it's a unit, it's a unit.
It's a unit. That's
And
right.
and this is why I would tell people these sales numbers matter. It's not to get a stamp of course that feels good. If somebody picks up the
Mhm.
phone and calls you and says you're a bestseller, you're
Mhm.
gonna celebrate.
Mhm.
That's not the point of it all. What you're doing is you're ensuring that this author and this work that you appreciate has a second shot at bringing
Yeah.
you something else.
That's right. That's right.
This could really, like, determine the next book.
That's right.
That's all the business of bookselling. That has nothing to do with the research and nothing to do with your nights writing or living life in, and
Mhm.
it has nothing to do with the art, the work, or whatever. But on the flip side, the other good thing about this living, almost breathing thing is that it doesn't die.
That's right.
And you can take it with you. I saw somebody, I'm going to hop into the fiction world really quickly. This made me so happy. Tayari Jones, who, if you're a Black artist, writer in Atlanta, one day somebody's going to tell all the Tayari Jones stories, and they're so delicious. But what I was about to say about the book being living, breathing thing, I saw somebody post, they stood in line for like an hour to see
Yeah.
her somewhere yesterday, and he bought American Marriage too, and said
Mm.
he was being introduced because of the book talk to the past work. We can't
That's
assume
right.
people
That's right.
know the work
That's right.
or that they've read you before or done any
That's
of that
right.
stuff. So he was being introduced to American Marriage. And then in my generation, just having enjoyed her, I'm like, you haven't read
Yeah.
it yet? But
Oh, yeah.
it's new to him.
That's right. That's right.
Um, just like if folks appreciate their newfound their discovery of Octavia Butler or whatever.
Yes.
Who's going to turn around with Sibo Campbell in a few years and be
I
like,
love that book. I love that book.
I love it too. And shout out to Dr. Brittany Crowell. She is in the English department at Clark Atlanta. I started my doctoral studies this year, and I had her humanistic inquiry class. this was a sign, like, the
Ugh,
as soon as it came out.
he
I
wrote the hell
now
out that book, okay? He wrote the hell out that book.
Yeah, he did.
Had me in my car screaming, okay? I said, I can't." So, no, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I appreciate your candidness, right? And I'm wondering, so, you the book is done, the research is done, it's in hand, you're on your way, you're right there at the precipice. Is there anything on the journey that you wish you knew
Yeah.
before you started?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I wish I knew to pass the work around
Mm,
to my writing community. I did read. I have a beautiful group, I'm in community with, called Island Scribe.
mm,
Simone Dalton is a writer who's between Canada, Trinidad, and sometimes the US, and Simone brought these BIPOC women together for writing retreats. It was my first retreat, and I've been talking about retreats this
yes.
week.
Yeah.
And I read what I thought was gonna be the prologue of the book. It is now the interlude.
Mm,
I read it in Barbados last year to the group, and everybody went silent. They were like, and they were humming with it.
mm,
That was probably the only time I read something out loud to a group.
yeah.
And then I picked up the phone and called some people, a friend who claims who likes audiobooks more than. So I was like, okay, is it good to the ear? Let me call this.
Mm,
And then I read aloud to a couple of other people, but I didn't really sit and do the readings I should have
mm,
with other writers for the critique.
hmm.
So I think you're just like, I'm not going to show anybody. Your first thing is weird. And then I'm used to reporting, and you don't really share reporting ahead of the time. You get to the fact checking stage and you reach out to the people who are in the story to do your thing, but you don't share reporting. I wish I'd shared more, because it's a very lonely process. I am satisfied with having reached out to family members to say, I'm gonna touch on this, I'm gonna do this, that kind of thing. But I would have had more of it written before I pitched it.
Mm,
Because the rules say fiction, you turn the thing, you are actually
right.
giving them the book, right?
That's right.
Nonfiction, you're proposing the thing, and then you
Right.
still don't know what direction. Clarity for the direction sooner in the process
Mm-hmm.
will that'll ground you in a way. So I am working on the next proposal right now. That's the other thing. You don't really
You
stop.
never stop. Nope.
But this time I know where to seek funding.
Mm,
Or where to try to, land this.
mm-hmm.
Be honest with you. I'm be honest with you. I look at a lot of white authors' biographies who do the same type of work that I do, and I'm like, where did you get? Because I know particularly a lot of retired white men journalists who pick up the phone and call their agent and they say, I am writing this book.
That's right. That's right.
And they have said this themselves in public settings,
That's right.
and I won't name the books, but there's some recent ones where they just say, oh,
I'm just
I'm the
writing.
one to write, and then they
Yeah.
get a deal.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's correct.
They get a deal, and they very confident and say, I am doing this. And I'm
Yeah.
like, will somebody take me for the next one?
Yeah.
I don't know how the next thing is going, but there are
Yeah.
a couple of stories. I know several
Mm-hmm.
projects, and I'm picking away at things, and they will come. But before I propose it, maybe next year, I'll have more than you won't get a sample chapter. You might have 3 chapters in the order I think they
That's right.
will appear. You'll probably get all of that. I'll approach it more like a fiction work.
I agree.
Mhm.
I agree completely. As somebody who is now moving into my next books, I said, I'm going to write as much as possible because that proposal It is hard when your proposal doesn't actually match what unfolds in the writing and the research. That is
It
hard
is.
work to restructure as you're writing, and it takes time and it slows you down. You are absolutely right about this. You are absolutely right about this.
And you're not taught to do that. You say, all you need is this. But
Yep.
I also, I want people to see the next thing is worth funding. Like, if you appreciate anything out of this,
Yeah.
know that it was done with little time resource.
Mm.
And time is time. I like the kids aren't gonna stop. We're recording this early, but everybody's at school right now.
Yes, the same.
So this doesn't happen. I
Right.
mean, okay, 10
Yeah,
o'clock.
come 3 o'clock. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This is about over. This is like a day date. What we call literary dating. That's what this
Oh, child. A
girl.
real nigga roll call? I don't
That
know.
that is what we're doing right now, and
Yeah.
being in community when you have time, and also just bring the kids into
Yeah.
community. Anybody around here, they'll see, like, the kids come with
Same.
us when we do stuff,
Same.
and a lot of times they do like it. Sometimes they'd rather be doing something else, but
My kids are like, are there comic books? Is there anime? I'm like, no, baby. Mama doesn't write mangas and animes. I'm sorry.
listen.
Not yet. I don't know. Maybe one day. But I am so grateful for our day date today.
Yes.
And we are sadly coming to the end.
Are we?
And I
Did I
just
talk too
yeah,
much?
come on. I just want to know, is there anything else? If someone looks at this and says, I want to write a book like this. One day I want to do this lineage literature work.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
there anything that you want to leave them with? Any advice or encouragement?
Talk to them.
Mm.
Invite them in.
Hmm.
Because you're gonna get frustrated. I learned there were about a dozen different ways to search my great-grandfather's name depending on the era that he was living through, various archives, particularly
Mm.
the newspaper. So where I wasn't getting the hit, I didn't find him with Zora because he could be anything. He could be Dr. Lawrence Ferguson. He could be Lawrence St. C. Ferguson. He could be LSC Ferguson.
Mm.
You didn't search it a particular way.
Hmm.
And also put your reporter hat on. Think about people who would have had an interest in them at the time.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to go searching for white folks.
Yeah.
And impeccable. And if your lineage runs through the islands, the good thing is that you're going to the records are impeccable.
Mm.
Anybody who descends from someone who is considered property,
Hmm.
whether it was codified, whether it was enslavement, or you're considered in the caste system as someone they need to keep up with, white folks have records on.
Wow.
And so, this also, and as you're doing it, ask for guidance for how to uh, begin to keep your record, because what you're doing is worthy of someone who's
Right.
discovery of someone who's not here yet.
That's right.
And so I have to write to this and journal to this so that those who come back say, oh, she was
That's right.
called into this in this way, and this is what I need to do to maybe understand her
That's right.
or this work or the complexities. And then don't get upset when you see things that don't fit in a box or a rosy picture.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Like,
I
or
tell
when you
my
go talking to people and you're like, oh
That's
yeah,
right.
these things happen, and then they're not the heroes or the
They're complex.
they're complex.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, go look at yourself.
Come on.
Yeah, they
I
were
tell
they
my
were
students
no
that all the
different.
time. I tell my students, you are a living archive. You
You're
are
a living archive.
the work
Yeah,
we are doing this is archival work.
maybe I don't know if there's a difference in the archive or a
Mm.
archive or the archive of living thing. Like
Mm.
we've got to come up with the language to make sure people understand it's living, it's breathing,
That's
it
right.
doesn't end. and you got to reach back for the things because they're waiting to tell you.
That's right.
They actually don't rest until they tell
That's
you.
right.
So approach it with a very, as one of my professors would say here, Dr. Daniel Black, with a very African way of being. Throw some stuff out, and you're going to have to be this way. You're going to have to be this way because then you'll ask different questions. You'll interrogate things differently.
Right. That's right.
So, yeah, talk to them, let them in, and let them guide you because they're really not resting until they get to you.
I hear you. And you know what's so funny that has been a theme throughout this podcast series is that when we are writing, we are doing this ancestral genealogical archival work, and we take it so seriously. I am just so happy that we have finally met. I adore you and your energy. I really do. And I'm excited for this. I can't wait to teach this book, you know?
Oh,
I want to know, tell folks, how to follow you, how to support you, where to find you, what's next.
yes. I'm Nicole F. Carr almost everywhere. I'm in my visiting year teaching at Morehouse. I hope to stay there.
Yeah.
We'll know soon
Yeah.
what the future is there. And I have a Substack called Fortify. So in that newsletter, I try to bring archives to the forefront and contextualizing a moment. And yeah, I hope to see you in the city wherever we stop with the book.
Yes.
And I hope it helps us with ongoing conversation.
Yes.
Mhm.
Especially right now. I get to say my signature phrase of the podcast, which is, we publish, beloved. You did it. You did it. And this is a major feat. Yeah, this is a big deal. So I'm proud of you. I am happy for you. I hope that you have built in some rest over the next couple of weeks and months. I know you laughing, so I'm worried, but hope that you have time to really celebrate yourself and to sit with this incredible feat and accomplishment of navigating a publishing world that really does not want to tell our stories.